Oh, great. I see the recording function is up. Perfect. Give it maybe just another minute and then we'll get going and can let people in as they join.
Dane, do you want to put a note in the messages for everyone to see that basically explains that we have how they can submit questions if they like?
Yeah, let's do that. And then I was going to verbally explain it as well. There we go. All right, I think we could get started and we can allow folks in as we see them pop up. Good evening and welcome to the Pi Live Q&A session featuring our 3 Pi candidates. And I am your moderator, Wayne Kessler. I was asked by Pi if I would moderate this event this evening. Some of you may have seen probably since August, I've asked a lot of BOE focused questions. And when I approached Pi, they said, well, what if we did that in a public format so that not only you, but others can express their questions and we'll record it and put it out for everybody to see. So here we are. We're going to keep this a pretty informal format tonight. You'll hear very little of me after this, but if you do have a question, and I did put it in the messages, but on the bottom right of your screen, you'll see a button with a triangle, a square, and a circle. I don't know what to call that other than the shape button. If you click on that, you will see a menu pop up, one of which says Q&A. So if you click Q&A, you will then see a window where you can click a button at the bottom right that says ask a question, and that'll come straight to me. So please feel free to do that as we go through. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I would like to give each candidate just a minute or so just to introduce themselves. I know people have now met these candidates several times, but I think it's important, since we are recording, just give a quick background about yourselves before we get into the Q&A portion. Whoever wants to go first is great.
I'll start if you want. Oh, Brian, go ahead.
I was about to say, how about we start with Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jenna Carraro. I am a product of Marlboro's school.
I'm not sure
Right.
if I think we lost Jenna.
I think we did. All right. Well,
Or I guess I'll go then. And then hi everyone. As we wait for Jenna to get back on. Oh, Jenna, you back? If you're back,
Yeah,
by all means, continue.
I don't know if I ever went away. Do you hear me?
we do now. Yes.
Okay, I'll go really.
Start again.
Okay, so hi, I'm Jenna Carraro. I am a product of the Marlboro education system. I went to the original middle school and graduated Marlboro High School. When beginning to have a family, my husband and I decided to come back to Marlboro for the town's reputation, and along with the school, had a great reputation. We currently have a 5-year-old and an almost 8-year-old who are in the Marlboro schools. And currently I'm a professor at Essex County College, Drew, and formerly NJIT, and was a public high school teacher in Newark and Sayreville. I'm also an instructional designer with 10 years of experience creating inclusive learning environments by developing curricula and creating assessments using best practices for different modalities of learning. I'm pursuing a doctoral degree in an interdisciplinary humanities-based program at Drew. I am a co-convener of Drew's Arts and Letters program, as well as a co-chair of the Drew Staff Association. So I bring up these points because I want to emphasize, and you'll hear me throughout, building positive relationships and morale through collaboration, embracing difference, and bringing people together through participating in various communities. I'm also part of the PTO, and I'm a class mom, and I am dedicated to investing my time in our community and schools. So if elected, I would be a proponent of academic excellence, parental involvement, and the well-being of our students.
Rob, Brian, either one of you?
Yeah, no, Rob, I'll if you want to go.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. I think you guys all know me by now. So, little background. We moved to Marlboro in 2012. My wife and I, before kids, and obviously we moved here because of the school system and the community. We've been here for 12 years now. My eldest is in 5th grade, youngest is in 3rd grade. And you know what? It's been a great experience. I have more than 25 years. Okay, not more, but almost 25 years in technology, and mostly in the technology sector, and 15 years in various leadership roles. And I am running for Marlboro Township Board of Education for a couple of reasons, right? One is I want to see more of a commitment to focus on education. And my focus, along with, working with Brian and Jenna and the rest of the board, is to ensure that we bring back meaningful change that we can focus on what's important. That's academics, fiscal responsibility, supporting our teachers, administrators, ensuring that they're able to succeed. Personally, I'm committed to ensuring Marlboro remains a place where every student can succeed, has the tools that they require to succeed. I've been part of the community. I've been a volunteer coach for the Marlboro rec department, soccer for about 5 years ago, did that for about 3 years. And over the past 3 years, been coaching girls basketball, both for my 5th grader and my 3rd grader. I'm really happy to do that. Met a lot of great parents, a lot of wonderful children through those endeavors, and committed to making sure we do what we can to make sure our school system goes from good to excellent. Oh, that's all I have.
Brian, you're muted.
We're always having one person who is going to be in that situation, right? There we go. So now we're done. So good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Cohen, and I'm also running for a seat on the Marlboro Board of Education. I know we're going to give you lots of opportunities to sort of learn about us. So I just want you to, and our views, so let me just tell you a little bit about my background. So right now I'm the vice president for the Center for Digital Education, which is a national organization where I work with K through 12 and higher education leaders across the entire country, talking about what issues are really affecting them, everything from budget crisis to technology, to learning loss, to professional development, to recruitment and retention of teachers across their systems. And quite frankly, the introduction of new technologies like AI. We spend lots of time talking about that. But prior to joining the Center for Digital Education, I spent nearly 30 years with the City University of New York and New York City. At CUNY, I was actually the Vice Chancellor and Chief Information Officer for the entire university. I led all the technology. I ran an organization of over 200 people with a budget of almost $100 million a year, capital budgets of over $300 million a year. So I have extensive leadership experience, extensive management experience. I've worked on strategic projects, team collaboration, team building, you name it, I've been involved in it. So, I hope to bring my leadership skills, my experiences, my knowledge to the board. I've worked for Republicans. I've worked for Democrats in my day, and I've lived by a quote that has been really very influential in leading me through my job, which is something from John F. Kennedy, where he said, "Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix the blame for the past, but let's just accept our responsibility for the future." And that has always been a driver for me in my career in government and my career in education.
Great. Well, thank you all. We are going to get right into the Q&A portion. I did come up with a laundry list of questions for you, but please, again, those who have joined, if you look on the bottom right of your screen, you will see the shape button. There's a triangle and a square and a circle. If you click on that, a window will pop up and one of the options will be Q&A. You can feel free to ask any questions in there as we go along, and we will work them into the conversation.
Hey,
So
Wayne,
let's-
before we get
yeah.
started, can I just say on behalf of Jenna and Rob and myself, thank you for agreeing to do this. We really appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have a horse in this race, so it's all up to you guys. I'm just asking the questions.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. If elected in November, what would be your top priority? And all three you can answer, or if one or two of you want to answer, that's great too.
I'll go first if you want. I mean, I was last, so I'll go first this time, right?
Sure.
You know, it's a great question, and you know, I struggle with trying to figure out what I want to be my top priority because I think there's just a few things that sort of bubble to the top for me. One is I think that we need to, as a board, to help our school administration really focus on how we go from being average to being excellent in our schools. So really the key point there is a focus on our academics and investing in our teachers and investing in our classrooms so that learning becomes the priority of our administration and the priority of our board. I think we need to leverage data wherever we can. So we need to sort of build a culture around data within our board and our administration. I think we always should collaborate and enforce the transparency of what the board does and what the administration does and engage parents in that process. And my final one, which is something I didn't really, focused on, was really we need to do a better job in our budgeting. We need fiscal responsibility, and with fiscal responsibility, we also need to sort of be, and with fiscal responsibility and transparency, we need to sort of start planning budgets for multi-year, not just 1 year. We need to have people engage in what we're thinking as a board and what we're thinking of a district and how we're going to plan for that so that they understand our directions.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to tackle that question?
And as Brian said, like, I mean, we have a plan, and that's essentially the beginning of that plan, right? Is to first and foremost is the academics, right? Understanding, using data to understand where, how students are performing and what we need to do to make sure that we go from, average to great. So I'm not going to reiterate that, nor the fiscal responsibility part of that. But, one thing about the fiscal responsibility is also we need to speak to the state government as well, right? Lobby them as well to try to see how we can get monies into our district as well, right? Because we just can't accept that we're losing funding, right? There has to be reasons for that. We need to be the drivers of that and make sure that we are focused on speaking with legislation to get whatever funding that we deserve as a school district. But in addition to that, which I'm not going to rehash because I think it was wonderful points that Brian made, is that we need to start assuring that we have the right committees in place as well, right? We have, right now in the for the Board of Education, we only have a handful of committees, right? This is 2024. We don't have a technology committee. We need to establish a technology committee, a seriously dedicated technology and communications committee. We also need to make sure that we are focused on things like, artificial intelligence. It's not just a buzzword. It is something that we need to make sure that our students understand both the impact, how to use it, the impact, and what they can do with it. We also need to make sure that we have committees around, sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second here, but communications and also cybersecurity as well, right? We need to make sure we're focused on that as we want our children and our students to go online and use more of these resources. We need to make sure that they're protected as well. And what is our cybersecurity plan? Yes, there's data protection, there's DDoS, but there's also protection for them as well, right? Making sure that bad actors do not infiltrate and have their information or able to communicate with them directly. So these are some certain committees that we definitely need to make sure we're focused on and making sure that we're focused on safety.
And along with, I echo the sentiments of both Brian and Nirav. They made great points. Something additionally that I would just focus on, and I said it in my introduction, like I think to build positive relationships in the community because of a lot of the division going on right now, building that morale, I think is going to be the first step to actually being able to do actions that need to be done in order to get more order on the board. And then we could kind of dive into the different committees and really work together collaboratively to find solutions for the district. And then that is even, as they were saying about AI and these resources, we really need to figure out how to get different constituents within the district the resources that they need. So that's admins, that's teachers, and then filter it down to the students, because again, they need to be able to ethically use all of this technology and kind of the evolving learning space in society now.
Great. Thank you. Let's flip the topic a little bit. Two-part question coming up on parents. So parent engagement and outreach generally, from your perspective, what happens to be the core issue and what would you do to address it? If anyone wants to jump on that.
I'll go first if you guys don't mind.
Please.
So, I think that there are a couple of core issues. First, I think is that some parents feel completely disconnected from the decision-making process and what's going on in the schools or in the classroom or even at the board. Some parents don't know how to engage or can't engage because of other obligations or other restrictions. And then there are some parents out there that really, feel completely content and happy. And as long as their kids are learning, they don't want to engage because they have other things in their lives they have to worry about. And until it gets raised to their level, they're going to be content with how things just go. I mean, that's just, to me, that's the core issue. But what's the solution? And the solution is not one size fits all, because exactly that problem. You have different people with different challenges, with different interests associated with engagement. So you really need lots of different ways in which you're going to engage parents. You need to have, you definitely need to be consistent in your messaging. You definitely need to be transparent in your communications. You got to leverage every single channel that you can possibly can, whether it's social media, whether it's, emails, whether it's phone calls, whether it's in-person meetings. You've got to use every single channel you can to engage those parents. I'm going to stop there and see if Jenna and Nirav want to sort of jump in on that.
I mean, parent engagement is key, right? Parents are critical in the success of their children's education. I mean, we 100% need parents involved every step of the way. And like you said, unfortunately, not all parents have the same the means or the opportunity to be able to get involved. Right now, I think our teachers do a good job in communicating what's happening day to day with the students, right? It could be homework, it could be any issues that arise, etc. They do a great job, but I think as a board, we need to do a better job in communicating to all parents and various means to ensure that they're up to date with the information, right? That could be curriculum changes, that could be any kind of policy changes and things like that, and make it so that it's understandable and consumable by all parents. Most parents in the district are not lawyers, right? They can't read between the lines, and we need to make sure it's a consumable way of any of these decisions that are made, or at least up for debate, so they can go and make an informed decision. If they disagree with something or they want to make a change, they have the right tools so they can go in to a board meeting or contact the board and speak with them. So that's on the parent engagement.
And also from the points that Brian and Nirav were making, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of like the last person to go, my internet is acting up. But even the idea for like increased use of like parent advisory councils, right? Like having open forums for parents to talk about their concerns. And as Brian was saying, in different formats, right? Like reaching the most of the audience and the parents and the community as we can. And then even like, I think the schools do a great job with consent for the privacy when using technology. But even like the ideas of like opt in or like opt out sort of things, like how much do you want to be involved? And again, yeah, like it has to do with, what the parents need and how much they want the information, like how much detailed information do they want?
Hey, Wayne, I just want to jump in and add one other point. I mean, I know we're talking about parents, right? But there's another part of this town that people do that are impacted by the decisions that the board makes, and that's taxpayers. People who don't necessarily have children in the school but live in the town, people who may have grandchildren in the school, but they're equally interested in some of the decisions that the board makes. And I don't believe, and I haven't seen any way in which we engage them. Right? How do they know about the budget, and how do they understand what we're trying to do in the schools and the impact to them from a budget, from a tax perspective? We know that they're concerned about taxes constantly going up, but maybe they need to also be aware why, and they have to be able to plan for it. So we need a better way to communicate what's going on in our schools so that they understand that as well.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to pause real quick. We had a bunch of new folks join us. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to ask a question as we go through, I do see some are coming in, but if you do need a little help on that, there's a button on the bottom right with 3 shapes, a triangle, a square, and a circle. If you click on that, a menu will pop up, and one of the options is Q&A, and feel free to drop your questions in there, and we'll see them. All right, so let's stick on the topic of parents a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about parental notification and informed consent. And we know how the board currently operates with regard to both. But would your or any of your approaches be different to the current approach of the board?
Yeah. So, I mean, mine kind of weaves into what we were saying before, what I was saying before, having opt-in, opt-out, having forums to talk about these types of concerns that they have. And I'm sure that, with the community involvement and with the board and being transparent, that we can find solutions to ease everyone's concerns and to get the result that they would want for their children.
Nirav,
Yeah. So, I mean, parent notification is key, right? Parents, again, as I mentioned before, critical in the success of the children's education. So if anything is going on with a child, right, and within the school grounds, etc., then we do expect parents to be notified by the teacher, right? If a child goes in and is struggling in a class or has some other type of event, we do expect, and we should always expect a teacher to notify the parent in a manner that's safe for the child as well, right? To ensure that the child is protected, has what it needs, has what they need, ensure to and whatever other support that they require alongside with the parents. I think that it is key. Parents need to be notified of what happens, and I think that for teachers themselves, right, they do a great job. Again, like I said before, daily messages that go out, right? They get, I don't know, as my experience with my kids, right? They get a folder, and there's essentially a daily, message of what they did in school and anything that we need to be aware of, right? So that's really critical of what we expect from our teachers and parental notification.
So I think, I always try to approach it of a problem with sort of trying to understand what the problem is, or what the end user wants in this particular case, the parents. Right? There's 2 schools of thought. I want to be able to weigh in and be informed on everything, and I don't want to weigh in and be informed about anything. Right? I think the answer here is that we as a board need to understand what is the breadth of what parents really want to understand and what they want to be able to weigh in on, what they want sort of transparency, what they want to be able to consent to or not consent to. I think that's the first and foremost thing for me, and that we learn from that and make sure that our policies as board members reflect that, and that our administration and our teachers are in fact empowered to be able to follow those policies with the information that they need. So it's about awareness. It's about making sure that we have implemented policies that support what we understand our community wants, and working with our administration to make sure that they're empowered and have the information, knowledge, and tools to be able to do what the policies actually say.
Great. We have some great questions coming in, so I'm going to flip away from mine for a few minutes to make sure our guests are heard. And funny enough, this was one that's on my sheet as well, but maybe it's written a little more eloquently than I would have said it. It leads off with, not sure if this has been asked. It has been asked. It's actually been asked quite a bit. I asked it last night, as a matter of fact, and became a feature question on some other candidates' Facebook feed. How do you plan to restore civility to our Board of Education?
That's
I like the way that was asked.
Yeah, it's right to the point, and that is a great question. I'm sort of just start talking about this, right? I mean, listen, we all saw what happened on Tuesday, right? We and not just this past Tuesday. That unfortunately was not an anomaly. It's been like that for way longer than we would all have wanted to be. And I think that there is a lack of civility within the board today. For myself, personally speaking, as a leader for many years, working with cross-functional teams, we may have different opinions, differing opinions about certain things, how you would implement something, how you go about, and that's okay to have different opinions. Respect is key, and if you have to be able to respect each other, you also have to be able to provide your opinion to each other without fear of anyone bashing you or going against you. It should be we should be able to talk things out and talk things through, and also, be a little bit vulnerable with each other as well, to say, maybe I don't understand this, or what happened here, or how do we get to where we need to be, right? And I think a good board that ensures that we are civil has common goals that they all work towards, that they all agree on, and that's where, and I use this statement a lot, that's the true north, right? Where is our true north, and how do we get there? And as a board, we need to be on that same page. How we get there might be a little bit different. We might have different opinions, but we need to work together. And I see in the private sector all the time, we have, it's who we are, right? We're humans. We have egos. We understand certain things, and we want to be able to express our opinions. We just need to be able to work together. And I think that a board that does that and has a common goal will be able to be successful.
And I mean, to build on that, I think that is really a strength that we bring to the table, is that we are professionals and we have to work with a lot of people and answer to people, or be the person that people answer to. And being able to, address concerns without getting defensive, or, just even the professional decorum of, the meetings that we have to go to, or kind of de-escalating certain issues, and really working through those problems, and being able to evaluate one another. I think that that's a huge strength that we bring here, are from those experience and all the different types of situations that we are in at work, and how we have to work those out and collaborate with people. So that's what, that's what I think is one of our strengths altogether is as well.
I think I agree with both Jenna and Rob on their sentiments. I think the key here, Wayne, was that word civility, right? Yeah. And right now, we're all witnessing what I consider to be a dysfunctional operating board, and that's a problem for our town, because the only ones who are going to suffer from this are going to be the schools, right? We need, and I'll echo their sentiments about civility and building consensus and respectful dialogue. I think those are all very important outcomes. And the first question you need to understand is what's causing this problem. And we have to get to a point where the board is focused on the core academic issues of our schools, the core operational issues of our schools. The things that our administrators need us to help them with and to provide the guidance with, and we have to stop allowing as a board, we have to not allow politics to play into our agenda. We have to sort of not allow sort of, the loud squeaky wheel on Facebook playing into the way in which board members are actually operating, or the things that they're focusing on. They need to represent every single member of this community. And that's where we need to work with. And quite frankly, that's going to require lots of professional support, lots of civil discussions. And, maybe it's time that, our community look at this and send a clear message that we're not going to tolerate this types of dysfunction.
Great, thank you.
Wayne, I just want to add something real quick.
Go right ahead.
Just with what Brian said, it just brought up like the idea of modeling, right? Like we want our students to act a certain way, and we need to act a certain way so that they see what respect looks like, what mutual communication and understanding looks like, and compassion. So when Brian was speaking, it just kind of hit me that we also have to model this in order for our children to model it as well.
I think that's great.
It's a great point, Jenna. Absolutely spectacular point. We got to be leaders.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I always heard an old adage that says, treat people the way they want to be treated. The little flip on treat people the way you want to be treated. Maybe you don't treat yourself so well, but others may want to be treated better. I think it's a good thing to live up to. Let's talk about book banning. That's one of the latest and greatest hot topics, and I kind of penciled that in earlier. What does book banning mean to each of you, and what's your position on book banning?
Sorry, go ahead, Nirav.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Jenna.
Oh, okay. So for me, book banning is censorship. I don't agree in censorship. However, I think in the curriculum, especially for, students K through 8, we need to be able to make decisions on books that align with the curriculum, that are developmentally appropriate. It's not just like, hey, read whatever if you're not ready for that type of situation or knowledge. So again, kind of tiered, structured reading for developmentally appropriate materials. I also want to leave some of those things to the professionals in the classroom, because teachers go and get certified and they study and they work really hard in understanding the dynamics of a classroom and dynamics of how curriculum plays out in their classroom. So again, allowing them to, and then there is no reason why we can't, as board members or as parents, like go read the books, go see like what's important there, if it's developmentally appropriate, because again, censorship, I don't think, I would never ban all the banned books. I enjoy reading, right? And as an adult, I know that I can handle whatever at this point, but again, that nice structured, developmentally appropriate is very important, and having parent involvement in that.
Yeah, I kind of was going to echo what you said there, Jenna, especially the beginning part of it. Book banning is a form of censorship, and we need to make sure that we trust our professionals, our teachers, our librarians, our administration, the people who are experts, right? They understand what is age appropriate. We always, and for Marlborough Township, we have to remember we are a K-8 school district, and we have to understand that our administration, our the folks that are managing the curriculum, our teachers, they are reviewing these books, ensuring that they are vetted and that they are age appropriate, grade appropriate, and also level appropriate. Just because, there might be a situation where there's a third grader that's reading at a 7th grade level, but it does not mean that a third grader should be reading books meant for 7th graders. And, and that's where the teachers come in and administration comes in to understand that and not recommend those books for those students, right? So we have to trust the system. We have to trust the policymakers and understand that they do have the background and the education and the knowledge to do that. Because for me personally, as long as it's age appropriate, there is nothing better than having children read books. It opens up a world for them, right? It's something that's outside of their, the current world. It opens up everything, right? Different cultures, different ideas, different ways of just knowledge in general. If a parent has an issue with any material read, any book that's in class, they have the right to speak with the teacher to find an alternative. If there's a subject within a book that they disagree with, or they don't want to expose their children to, that is their right. As a parent, that is their right, and they have every right to contact the teacher and make sure that we provide an alternative for them. If they do not get the response or the respect that they expect, then absolutely we should be escalating that and making sure that becomes a board decision to understand that they have the materials that they need. So that's my stance on book banning.
Thank you.
Or lack thereof.
I agree with everything that you guys said, but I'm going to add a little bit to this because I'm going to make it very clear. I think we use this term book banning as a very broad term, and it's a loaded term. Okay. I think, quite frankly, any limitation on material that teaches people or teaches students, whether it's books, whether it's handouts, whatever it may be, is a concern when it limits access to knowledge and learning. All right. I think materials need to be age appropriate. I have no doubt with that. Am I the best judge of character as to age appropriate? I may have my opinions as that, but I also need to rely upon experts. Right. And in the context of experts, I think, I look to the librarians, I look to the teachers, I look to the curriculum development people. They absolutely read all this stuff. I don't read all this stuff. I don't know if I know a parent who reads all this stuff. And if they do, I think that's spectacular, and I commend them for that. But if you're going to ask me to weigh in as a parent on the appropriateness of the material, then I need to make sure that I am as smart as someone else and I know what it's about. So I would change, if we're going to engage, and I am in favor of giving parents an opportunity to sort of have that ability to weigh in on these decisions from a book's perspective and what their children should be reading or not reading, whether it's from a values perspective, whether it's from a religious perspective, they should weigh in on that. But we should also empower them to know what those books are about, giving them some sort of summary, some sort of cliff notes as to understand that, maybe even giving them access to the material themselves so they understand why that book was chosen and what purposes it's serving in the class. And if there's alternatives for that book, what those alternatives can be. But I definitely think we need to sort of make sure we not only give them the opportunity to weigh in, but we explain to them why and then give them alternatives.
Great. Thank you. So this current 2 slates of candidates running for the Board of Ed, many folks on Facebook are trying to make it as simple as conservative or traditional values versus the group of woke folks, for lack of a better term, which is not a term I use often. So going by that, they suggest that you all support woke policies, that you're backed by leftist liberal groups, that you want to sexualize the curriculum of the kindergarten through 8th grade school system. How do you respond to these claims? And what would you like undecided voters to know about your stance on these claims?
Who wants to go first?
Yes, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to trump you on this one, okay?
Don't say that word.
Wayne, and everyone who's listening in, going into this, I knew that this was going to be a controversial election, but I never went into this thing with my eyes closed at all. I expected to be called different things. And I have been called, quite frankly, everything you can imagine in the book, right? But let me just make it perfectly clear. My opponents have never, and even some of their supporters have never had a conversation with me about any of my thoughts on curriculum. They've never spent any time with me on to have a intellectual conversation about my policies. They haven't engaged me, all right? And I have not spent that much time on social media to have any stated points as to what I believe or what my issues are. And that's just the first point, right? So anything anyone has said about my position on these, it's conjecture. It's based upon some made up belief because they want to present a particular picture of me. So let me be clear and let me make sure everyone hears this, right? I believe in common sense education. I believe that we should be focusing on fundamentals. I believe we should be focusing on math and reading and science and history without inserting any politically divisive agenda into that curriculum or into that learning. I do not support pushing any kind of extreme ideologies in our schools. Am I perfectly clear? I do not support pushing any extreme ideologies into those schools. As a parent myself, right, I completely understand why parents might be concerned about this being taught in our classrooms, but that's why I believe in transparency and parental involvement, and I support policies that actually respect parents' engagement and their beliefs and their ability to weigh in. All right. So I'll stop there. I'm going to let Jenna and Nirav, but I may reserve some right to come back and add some more stuff.
Yeah,
We'll give you
no,
30-second rebuttal.
I totally want to reiterate the things that Brian says. I'm still waiting to find out what a definition of a radical woke ideology is. I know that in like the accusations that are made, from what my understanding of woke and being a mom and an educator, I was being yelled at the other day about like that I wanted porn in the curriculum. And I was just like, I'm a mother of 2 kids that are in the school system, and even just somebody who believes in lifelong learning. Why would I ever want that? Why would I want to be my children to be exposed to that? I don't want to be exposed to that. So I don't know where these thoughts or beliefs are coming from and why it's associated with us, but some of it, quite frankly, is ridiculous. And again, we've never had these conversations with some of the people that are making these accusations. And if they actually talk to us, like, we want the best for our children too. And again, that developmentally appropriate things that we've been reiterating over and over. I don't understand why we're still being accused of something, even though we have made it very clear that we are not behind. We do not condone these things.
Yeah, so I will just piggyback off of that a little bit. I'm not going to answer the question 100% around woke and woke ideology, because I'm still, like, as Jen, I'm still trying to understand what that really means, right? I mean, I understand like the slang definition of woke, but I don't want to delve into that too much. But one of the things that I do want to say is that it's unfortunate how divisive we are, right? How we're not really working as a community, in our town. You may have a belief, and if someone doesn't agree with that belief, that's it. Nothing else matters. You're just enemies. And I think that this is where, we see it in the board meetings where there's a lack of civility, and we see it, on social media and everywhere else, is that, there's a lot of presumptions made. And because of this, there's just so much anger and divisiveness that happens. And this is where we have moved away from what is important when it comes to our school system, and that's education, and that's providing our students and our children what they need and what they require to do well, providing our parents the opportunity to understand the curriculum and essentially provide and help and work with the administration and the teachers to provide our students the best education that we can possibly give, and also working with the community when it comes to fiscal responsibility and making sure that we get the proper, lack of a better term here, return on our investment when it comes to our taxes. This is the problem that we have, is that, we talk about this, and Wayne, I'm not pointing fingers at you for asking a question, but talking about, the woke ideology or conservative ideology or whatever it may be. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? People who have accused me of being woke or or having or wanting certain things in the curriculum, as Jenna and Brian said, I haven't spoken to anyone one-on-one. They don't know who I am. And that's actually the most disheartening thing, is that I feel like if we were able to get in a room and talk it through, we'll actually find that we're actually closer and more aligned than we all think, and I think that's what's missing right now, is that dialogue. And that's why I'm not going to really answer the woke part and all that stuff. I just want to make sure that we understand that we do need to have that dialogue, and that's where we get back to civility.
Wayne, I told you I'm going to reserve rights because
30 seconds.
I kept on thinking about this more and more, and I'm going to call it what it is. It's gaslighting. All right. It's absolute gaslighting. It's about what I call fear of the unknown, or creating a fear in what's not a problem. All right. Here in Marlboro, this is Marlboro. I have not yet heard one parent ever coming to a board meeting saying that there was inappropriate material in their classroom, that there is a problem with the curriculum. I haven't heard a parent come in there and say that. I only heard parents say, I reviewed the curriculum, everything is right, everything was okay, I signed off on it. I've heard some parents say to me, hey, listen, I have a religious belief and I don't want my child reading a particular story or a particular book or a particular topic, and I would prefer not to, and I'd like to have the ability to weigh in on that. That is the right way of sort of evolving it. But this is gaslighting, saying that we support these policies and we support these approaches. We don't. I don't. Okay. That's just what it comes down to. All right. I also don't believe any teacher or any educator is trying to indoctrinate our children. All right. Again, if that was happening in this district, believe me, we would be hearing about it. All right. Marlboro parents are not quiet. They weigh in. All right. They may have a voice and they're going to tell us if there's a problem. So, I'm running for this board to ensure that this is not a problem in Marlboro, but I haven't heard that it is a problem in Marlboro.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, all three of you. I'm going to go back to guest questions for a moment. I think this is actually an interesting point in time to ask this one. See if I get it right. I don't have my reading glasses with me. So you all seem to be pretty well aligned as candidates, but is there anything where you have a differing perspective, or maybe disagree is a strong word, but perhaps have a differential opinions from one another that, create more of a diverse approach, or do you find that you're all well aligned on everything?
It's a great question. I guess, I'll start with the fact that the nature of our name, Partners in Education, sort of implies that, we came into this because we had a lot of shared understanding and a lot of shared belief. And quite frankly, the ability to work together sort of starts with that underlying premise. All right. So I think we all want the same outcomes. How we get there may be slightly different. I may have different priorities. I may have different interests. I'm very technology oriented. I'm very focused on emerging technologies, but I guess I'm also a very strong operational person, and I think strategically. So I may want to sort of focus my efforts on working on how do we get a budget that's multi-year? How do we focus on our facilities, and how do we make sure that we're planning for actually future repairs or future upgrades? Right. And I want to focus on that. And that may not be Jenna's priority, and it may not be Naraz's priority. But quite frankly, the fact that we dipped into reserves to pay for air conditioning and projects, we don't have reserves to last forever. How are we going to do this? How are we going to plan for this? How are we going to keep our focus on it? So I think in my opinion, we want the same outcome, but we want to get there maybe focus on it, how we're going to get there, or what's the priority based upon all the things that we have to accomplish.
Yeah, I would say that I kind of feel like we're agreeing on this, and we should be more we should be disagreeing here. But I mean, the thing is, as partners, we have a shared plan, right? And like Brian said, how we get to implementation might be a different path, but we have a set of plans, and we have a plan, right? And we have multiple things that we've planned out. How we get there might be different. What we prioritize might be different, and that's okay. As partners, we don't have to agree with everything, and that's the same thing as it comes when you're on the board. Forget about the three of us, but the 9 members of the board. You have to have that common goal, right? These are your set of goals that you want to accomplish over the next school year. How do we get there? Or next couple of school years, how do we get there? and how do we work together in order to get there? And some people will have their strengths, right? Jenna has a strength in the, on the education sector, and curriculum, and I have the strength in technology, and Brian has a strength in budgeting, and somebody else might have strength in something else, and we have to just work with our strengths, work together to ensure that together we hit those goals, right? One person is not going to be able to accomplish everything. We have to work on this together. And what does that mean is that we have to understand that we have to take a step back. If I don't agree with Jenna on something, but she is more experienced in that, I might have to take a step back, try to understand where she's coming from, learn from that, and provide my input, and then hopefully we could come to an agreement. And that's the best that we can do as a team. And we have to think about it. A board is nothing but a team with common goals. And that's what we are. We are a team with common goals, and how we get there is gonna be a little bit different. What we do is gonna be a little bit different, but we know where I say it's over and over, where our true north is.
And I mean, that's also something that I want to point out is the willingness to actually come to an understanding and listen to one another than just react about things. Like, I'm not a mathematician. I'll leave that to Brian and Nirav. But we have different experiences. Like, I know for budget wise, I've only worked with small budget, and I have ideas about how to make that, stretch very little money into doing a lot using different resources and different way. I think in different ways than they do there. And so I think all of our strengths coming together, and we know our weaknesses. Like, you're only I forget the exact quote, but you're only as smart as much as your own weakness. So it being honest with those things that's where we also align, but we're willing to acknowledge the differences that we have. And I think that that's a really invaluable perspective to have.
Great.
Here.
Thank you. So I don't know if it's the nature of being in the throes of a unique presidential election, but it seems to me that politics is playing a significant role. It's popping up a lot in our local elections, and particularly this Board of Ed election, and in different ways. But not to dig into it, but I'm curious. Do you believe that any Board of Ed candidate should be funded by, endorsed by, recommended by any political parties, whether it's or political action committees or special interest groups at all, and why or why not? And my follow-up is, are you currently supported by any of those?
So as I was reading the question, I was just nodding my head no. No, right? First no is around Board of Education is apolitical, and it must remain that way, right? Because the purpose of a Board of Education is to ensure education, right? We provide proper education for our students, working with the local community, irrespective. Right? You might have to go across the aisle, and you have to work together, right? Irrespective of what the mayor party is, the governor who's a presidential, it really doesn't matter, right? We have to do what's best for the community and for our students. So emphatically, no. There should be no backing of any political parties. 100% Partners Improving Education. We are not backed by any political parties, irrespective of where we personally may lean one way. You go right, you may go left. It doesn't matter. We're not backed by any political party, and that's it.
Jenna, Brian?
And I mean, in my perspective, and to reiterate, Nirav, no, absolutely not. All of your questions. But the one thing that I did want to point out, and I've been thinking about this, is that when it comes to actual so being apolitical, right? A lot of the things that people are fighting about right now, going back to those questions about being a woke liberal, being whatever, there are foundational things in how people learn. Like I'm talking like neuroscience, studied, not political, that are now being politicized when they don't have to be. Like this is how people learn. Like we do research and studies about this, and like how the memory works and what makes a learning experience like useful, and like keeping things in long-term memory, and all of those things that impact somebody's experience while on their learning path, where this shouldn't be politicized. And that's where I think a lot of misunderstanding is coming from, because again, like the things that I've studied in becoming an educator, nothing to do with politics. So it's really kind of concerning that these things are coming and being polarized with politics.
Let's not forget, we are a public education system.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that we are, we operate to make sure as a school district that everyone has an equal access to our education, regardless of their beliefs. Right. And by the fact that is the foundational understanding of public education, it should be free of political interferences. Okay. And political agendas. And that's why the law in New Jersey and the law in many other districts across the country says that you run not as a political party. You run as an individual, not politically affiliated. So that's the first most fundamental purpose that I believe in, right? And that's why, hey, I have a political affiliation. I do that because I like to vote in primaries, right? But I've voted on both sides of the aisle associated with my political beliefs because I believe in what is right and what needs to be done. Right. So no, I do not believe that political action committees, I do not believe that political parties, I do not believe that political money belongs inside of a board of education election. All right. And that's the first part of I think the first part of your question there, Wayne. I'm trying to, are we currently supported by any of these? No, absolutely not. All right. We don't engage with it. We don't, it's our platform. It's been our plan all along. All right. And I can tell you, we've sat down and we've done it from scratch. All right. This is all us. And that's what and it's always going to be there. All right. And that's what I believe in. And whatever else you're hearing out there, whatever else people want to believe, people need to just sort of, listen to what we're saying and either believe us or not believe us. But I'm telling you right out, that's our beliefs and this is where we stand and there is no other action. I want to just end on one point, okay? Because the other point is that if we are elected, it is extremely important that we build relationships with our local leaders. Okay, the success of our schools, the success of our town depend on the fact that our board and our local leaders must be collaboratively working all the time. All right, for the same reason why our police department helps to protect our schools. All right, we need to make sure that those relationships and those partnerships are out there so that we can better our schools and better our town.
Thank you. We probably have time for a couple other questions. I'm just watching the clock, but want to make sure we got this one in. This was a mail-in question. I'm not sure if they're on with us right now or not, but since we are recording, I want to make sure we get this one answered. This was a significantly hot topic at the most recent board meeting. I'll read the question verbatim. What measures will you take to support the needs of working families who have been negatively impacted by the change to the YMCA? If anyone wants to grab that first, by all means.
I'll go
So I
first.
think
Again, no, go ahead.
it's okay. It's okay. I went first a couple times already.
It was that moment of silence, right? Wayne, this is a great question, and I think we've all talked about this a lot, and we've all done our homework and our research on this topic because it's so important. first and foremost, quite frankly, any decision that gets made about before and after care should not be made absent the people who need it the most, the parents. All right. And the fact that parents were not involved in the decision making is absurd to me. All right. They got to be involved. All right. They got to give you their feelings, their suggestions, their ideas, their requirements, so that you can engage in that. You need, if you're buying something for someone and you're putting it in front of them, if they can't use it, then what's the point? All right. So first and foremost, engaging parents, that would be the first thing I would do. All right. The second thing I would do is that, because there's a problem with the existing, whether it's real or perceived, and I think more real than perceived, right? I think it's extremely important that we collect that information so that we understand what needs to change, and we very quickly put a plan in place to either correct it currently or get ready to go back out and do another request for proposal, another procurement for this services, so that we can make sure that what we do as a board and as a district is aligned to what the needs are and what the parents can actually afford.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jenna, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, something that along with Brian, so I know some people that were affected by it and can't afford to put their child in as many times as they used to. I think if you're going to make a change like that, especially going from 20 years with the same company to all of a sudden doing something new, you have to give parents time. Like this should be in advance for myself. I think about my job, like when we have to switch systems or whatever, at least a year, or just know that it's coming, even if it's like 6 months, give them a way to actually be able to plan and understand the changes that are coming and how they have to adapt their routines and with their family. Because I found like this was just like, it like popped up, people getting back from vacation, and it's like, oh, there's something new in place and it's not implemented in the same way. So I think there could be a lot more seamless sort of changes, or at least anticipate some of those changes in order to make it just an easier, smoother process. And again, doing that RFP in a way that is correct, like appropriate, and respects others and the taxpayers and the parents. I think that that's the most important.
Thank
I will,
you.
sorry, what, yeah, that was jumping
Please,
right in. Apologies. So I would actually say the following, right? So it's okay to change vendors, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? As long as the process that you're following makes sense. I'm not in disagreement of actually going out there and doing the RFP to look for a new vendor. It could be the Y, it could be others, champions, whomever it may be, right? That part's fine. It's essentially, first and foremost, is understanding the parent's needs, right? Before care and after care is critical for many parents. We need to understand why they do it, what do they need, and what, essentially what's the basic requirements that they have. With that information in mind, that's how you go out, you get your RFPs, because you want to get the best deal, right? And get the best vendor possible, right? For everyone involved. With those concerns within the RFP, to make sure that those vendors understand that this is what we need, right? These are our requirements. How are you going to, provide, certain things, right? These features. First thing. The second, again, nothing wrong with changing vendors. The second thing is, if you're making a change, especially after 20 years, you do not provide an opportunity for parents a few weeks before the school year begins to have them communicate with the new vendor, have them ask questions. This has to be done many months prior. It's like any other project implementation. You make sure that you have a project plan and make sure that you say, okay, at this date, we're going to, introduce the vendor, in this case, the Y, to the parents. We'll have a Q&A. This date we'll go through the process. This is how you look at the dashboard. This is how you enroll your child, whatever it may be, right? These are the things that you need to do. This is project planning, right? Essentially, or project management that we didn't do. And then, so that's the second thing, right? So if we ever introduce a new one next year, whenever it's I think your contract, that's what we would do. And the third thing is continuous, right? Provide parents the opportunity to have these Q&A sessions or have these sessions with the Y, right? It's not just a one-time thing in August, but it's throughout the year. We should be having, maybe every quarter. I'm a new vendor. How are we doing? What can we do to improve? And we need to make sure we have these cadences in place for that. So that's, I'm hoping I answered the question about what we do for the Y. And the last thing is, next year as the contract is up, we'll follow the same thing, making sure that we have the parents' requirements, and then from there move forward.
And Wayne, I just want to add one more thing. At the board meeting, there was a recent high school graduate that actually brought in an idea that was really awesome. And it was about like having, I think, some of the high schoolers go and like help out with, imagine, well, I mean, I don't know the whole contract, like what's in the contract, how this would work, but it would be awesome to implement something like that, where it's like some of the parents that, used to have their children in 5 days a week and can now only do 3, give them a day. I mean, I wouldn't be sure about if those, students would have to be paid or if it could be, reimbursed in some other way, like their class at school or something. But yeah, like having the community kind of pitch in and fill in these gaps for now until we get to the end of that contract and we could kind of reevaluate. Some creative ideas are also what's needed when these things happen without any sort of, anticipation of a plan or next steps.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I actually heard her presentation. I thought it was a very cool idea, and there's probably significant ways in which they can probably insert that into some sort of developmental high school class, or even extend it beyond our high school. Some of our recent high school graduates that perhaps go to local colleges that are looking for more constructive things to do,
like volunteer work. I remember doing that in college.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many more constructive things that people can do, and she had a great idea.
Yeah.
As we start to wrap this up, just keeping track of the time. So what is one thing each of you want voters to remember about either your background, your qualifications, or your commitment to the town of Marlborough as they get ready to cast their votes? Who didn't get a chance to go first yet? Jenna, you want to go first?
Oh, okay. I think we all went first at some point, but yeah, I'll do my spiel right now. So if elected, so what I want people to remember about me is I can't stress enough how important I think positive relationships are. It's what I do at my work in a volunteer position as the co-chair, and just even in my instructional design and being a professor. It's really about active listening, transparency, collaboration, and just responding to people. Even if you don't know the answer, it's okay, and you can work together to find something. A solution that works for everyone. So again, like it just establishing forums for dialogue, clear communication, and just respecting diverse perspectives. I think by promoting this understanding and engaging with the community, I think we can proactively find balanced solution that reflect our collective priorities. And so ultimately my goal is to foster a district that supports both academic and emotional well-being of the students through strong partnerships with families, educators, all the stakeholders involved in our community and in our district.
Thank you. Brian Narav?
I'll go next. let Marav have the last word. I think it'd be great. So, I guess, I want voters to know that by nature of me, I'm a problem solver. I approach things as a problem and I try to find ways to solve it. And that means, I bring a lot of different types of skills to that, analyzing it, understanding it, fostering, a positive, inclusive way to approach problems, listening to people. I believe in data. I believe that you should make your decisions should be informed. And when you make decisions, you should own it. All right. And that's what I believe in. And those are some of my most fundamental beliefs in everything I do. And that's what's driven my career, both personally and professionally, and all the decisions I've made. Right. Ultimately, as far as Marlboro is concerned, I love Marlboro. I moved here because I wanted my family, my wife and I wanted our family to have a better life. And you know what? It's been great. We don't see ourselves moving away from Marlboro. As a matter of fact, we see ourselves staying here and maybe our kids even staying here. And I want our schools to be a place where they are proud to put their children, my grandchildren at some point in the future, here. I am a product of public education. All right. All the way through high school, public education. My kids are a product of public education. I believe in it. It's what has given us the most foundational beliefs we have. And I'm not giving that up.
Okay, so I guess I'll go. Yeah, so like Brian, I'm a product of public education as well, all the way from kindergarten all the way out to high school, even college. Went to just public universities, etc. And the phenomenal thing about public education and public schools is that it gives everyone the same opportunity to succeed. Irrespective of your economic background or whatever it is, you have the right, you have the opportunity to succeed. So I think that's the beauty of it, and that's one thing that I'm really proud of Marlboro Township's school system, is that we are trying to provide the best education to all of our students, right? And I think we all mean well. We want to do that. I have my background, as everyone knows, is more of a technologist, and working with cross-functional teams, right? So when you're when you're a technologist and you're in technology, it's not just sitting in front of a computer and typing up code or whatever. You're working with many different types of people, right? You're working with legal, compliance, you're working with product, you're working with business people, you're working with many people with different skill sets, trying essentially with a common goal, right? To implement a common goal. And that's what I will bring to the board, is essentially assuring that we achieve our goals together and we work together, and we take every goal, essentially every implementation, every policy review, every curriculum review, everything essentially as projects, as something that we need to get done as an end date. And we need to be, as Brian said, we need to be accountable for what we produce, and we need to be transparent to the community. So that's my, that's essentially what I want to bring to the board. And, last but certainly not least, is to make sure that we do have the proper communication to parents and to other stakeholders, which is the community, the taxpayers, senior citizens, people who might not have, whose children have, graduated out of the school district, right? People who do not have kids in the school district, or anyone else, to make sure that we are providing them updates. They have everything that they need to make informed decisions, about the budget, about who do we elect for the next board meeting, for the next, board of elections, whatever it may be, right? We need to make sure that we provide that information to the community itself. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you. I don't have a professional wrap on this one, but I will say I want to thank all three of you for sharing your thoughts, answering some of my crazy questions, answering questions from our guests who shared. I'll just say this. I think this has been a campaign of a lot of preconceived notions. This is an eye-opening session for me, and I'm sure others. I think a lesson learned is people should do more listening than speaking. because when you listen, you might realize that you weren't right, or you were partially right, or you might even agree. But if you don't listen and all you do is speak just to be heard, it's not a solution. So I want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us tonight, and wish everybody luck. And thank you again for allowing me to moderate this thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you taking your time.
We
to do
appreciated
this.
everything, all the time you put into this, and the value that you bring to Marlboro by being so even keeled in your questions. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. But thank you all, and I hope everyone who's joined us enjoys the rest of the evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Again,
Have a good night.
take care.
Good night, everyone.
Think I left too soon.
They're all
Okay.
gone.
No, I need to stop the recording. That's why
Oh yeah,
it'll record everything.
I think everybody's gone.